Hello everyone and welcome to my 2026 NFL mock draft. My name is Simon Erickson with 7 Investing. I have two of my passions in life are stock market investing and NFL mock drafts. If you want more on the former, check out 7investing.com. If you'd like more on the latter, stay tuned because I've got a very good mock draft here today. 2 trades in the first round. We'll go through each of these teams pick by pick, which in a lot of ways is veering from the consensus. Let's jump in right away with pick number 1 in the 2026 NFL mock draft. I have the Las Vegas Raiders taking Dante Moore, the quarterback out of Oregon. This is a veer from consensus. Most people think that they're going to go with Fernando Mendoza with that first pick. I think the Raiders are going to be more drawn to Dante Moore. He's better in the pocket. He's better able to scramble. He's got better legs than Mendoza does. Of course, that's important for the Raiders, who've got a Swiss cheese offensive line. They're going to really appreciate and value his ability to escape out of a collapsing pocket. He's also a lot younger. He's only 20 years old. He'll be 21 next spring. Gives him a little bit more time to develop with Tom Brady and others out there in the Raiders. And then also third and last but not least, I just think that he's got a higher ceiling than Mendoza does. I think Mendoza is a more polished player that's more NFL ready today. I think that Dante Moore, with the multi-year rebuild that the Raiders are on right now, is a better fit for this team. Dante Moore going number 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders. With the number 2 pick in the 2022 and the 2026 draft, I have a trade happening. I see the Los Angeles Rams trading up with the New York Giants to get their next franchise quarterback. Specifically, I think the Rams are going to be positioned at around 10. Position number 10 when the end of the season rolls around. I think they're going to give that 10th pick plus the late first round pick, which right now I have as number 32, assuming they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Also their 2027 first rounder and their 2027 third rounder, moving all of those to the Giants to move up to number 2. That's a little bit less compensation than you would have to give to number 1, assuming that the Raiders want to stay and pick their quarterback of the future. I see the Rams trading with the Giants getting a haul for that number 2 pick to move down to number 10. And with that number 2 pick, I think the LA Rams are going to select Fernando Mendoza. This only makes sense to send this player, who is a very, very high IQ quarterback, likes to study the plays, study the film, knows the playbook inside and out of the team that he had with Indiana. If you put him in there in offense to learn from Sean McVay, and perhaps even sitting behind Matthew Stafford for a half a year or more, I think that's just the ultimate potential for success that the Rams will get their next franchise QB from. And the Rams, getting the opportunity to move from 10 to 2, it's almost a luxury that was afforded to them from the trade that they got with the Falcons. It turned out incredibly well for them. I think they're going to take advantage of this opportunity to move up from 10 to 2, do whatever it takes to get their next franchise QB, knowing that they probably won't be drafting this high again in quite a amount of time. So I think they're going to go all in on this pick. I see the Rams moving up from number 10 to number 2, trading a haul to the Giants, and then selecting Fernando Mendoza with the number 2 pick. With the number 3 pick in the 2026 draft, I have the New York Jets selecting Arvell Reese, the linebacker and edge rusher from Ohio State. Arvell Reese is probably one of the most versatile defensive players in this entire class. You've seen him go after the quarterback quite a bit. He's also able to tackle in space. Just a really, really movable chess piece of a defensive front. And I think that Aaron Glenn at the Jets, who used to be a defensive back himself for the Jets, is going to be the right fit for him. I think that this is a coach that can see the potential that Reese has on a bunch of different positions and is going to get the most out of him no matter where he lines up in that front 7. I think that that's going to be a good fit for him, a good fit for the team. I know that the Jets want to rebuild a lot of their offense this year as well, but with so much draft capital here in 2026 and in 2027, and also seeing Mendoza and Moore both off the board, I think they're just going to take what they deem to be the best player available there at number 3, and Reese is going to be a great fit in that defensive scheme. That they'll probably run a 4-3 with the Jets defense and Aaron Glenn. With the number 4 pick of the 2026 draft, I see the Arizona Cardinals drafting Spencer Fano, the right tackle out of Utah. He's just stood head and shoulders above the other offensive tackles in this class. Good zone blocker, great for run blocking schemes. Also a pretty good pass protector. We know that the Cardinals are losing Jonah Williams at the end of the season. Beachum is also leaving after 13th year in the league now. I mean, they really need to either draft or trade for a right tackle this year. And with Paris Johnson, I'm convinced that the Cardinals like to draft and develop their linemen over time. Paris has done incredibly well holding down the fort on the left-hand side. I think they're going to translate that same strategy to Fano over there on the right. And this is a team that, in addition to drafting an offensive lineman with that fourth pick, I also think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to trade Kyler Murray to the New York Jets in the offseason. Murray's got a massive contract, so worth over $50 million a year, and he's still got 2 more years on the contract. I think that with the Jets seeing that both Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza are off the board, but they've got plenty of salary cap space available, over $94 million as of today for the 2026 season, I think they're going to be intrigued enough with Kyler's potential to bring him in for those remaining 2 years. Will the Cardinals eat some of the guarantees that are in the contract financially? Yes, they probably will. Will the Jets be able to absorb this, immediately start him, knowing that Kyler was a former first-round pick that's got a lot of potential and doesn't make a ton of interceptions and mistakes at the Cardinals? Yes, I think it's going to be a good fit based on the draft capital that the Jets have. Now, do I think that Kyler is the long-term solution up in New York? No, I certainly do not. But I think he's a great bridge quarterback that is the most capable of being their starting QB for the next 2 years as they round off the rest of his contract. So with that fourth pick, I had the Arizona Cardinals drafting Spencer Fano, the right tackle out of Utah. With the fifth pick in the 2026 draft, I see the Tennessee Titans drafting Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. It's really just the right fit. You've got Cam Ward, who's got a lot of potential, showing poise in the pocket, showing that he's capable of being the starting QB for the Titans, which they've had problems with Will Levis not showing them in the past. But I think Cam Ward at this point really needs to see that he has a wide receiver one. He needs to have a primary target to show his development in his sophomore season. And I think that even though Mike Berganzi wants to trade down and collaborate with other teams and collect more draft picks in future years, I think this is the right position to stick and pick and go with Carnell Tate as the first wide receiver off the board. He's a big-bodied receiver right out of Ohio State, receiver U at OSU for the NFL. He's going to catch everything that's thrown to him. He doesn't drop passes. He's a guy that can separate, but even more so, it's just going to give Ward a target that he can be very reliable. You can throw to him and he's going to know that he's going to pick up first downs, which is something the Titans have struggled with this year. They haven't put a whole lot of points on the board. There's a lot of speculation that the Titans might go defense here. Ruben Bain, the edge rusher, is certainly as a potential option for them here at the fifth pick. But I do think with Cam Ward, going into year 2, not really having a reliable wide receiver one target as of yet, I think it's the right pick for Carnell Tate. He's the right receiver to fit into the Titans system. So I have Tate going number 5 to the Tennessee Titans. With the number 6 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. Now, we know, first of all and foremost, we know that Tyson has missed a lot of games in college, right? But these are not related injuries. These are soft tissue injuries for the most part. He had a collarbone injury for a while there. But this is not like it's a nagging knee injury or an ACL tear that kind of comes back up and gets re-injured over time. These are uncorrelated injuries, or at least apparently uncorrelated to one another, which to me thinks that Tyson is worth the risk. There certainly is a risk of him being re-injured, and that's why I had Carnell Tate going number 5, just ahead of him, to the Titans. But I think that the Cleveland Browns, more than anything, they need somebody who's going to put points on the board for them and be the true playmaker of this offense. And really, that's exactly what Tyson's going to come in to be. Stick with Shedeur for at least another year. I know that there's a lot of debate within the Browns front office about Shedeur's leadership capabilities. Is he the right long-term answer for this franchise? To be determined. But in my opinion, he's shown enough potential to stick around for at least another year to see what they've got with him. So let's give Shedeur a wide receiver one. Let's give him Jordan Tyson of the Browns, and let's start putting some more points on the board, knowing that they did just beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, their AFC North divisional rival, here in the last week. So with the 6 picks, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. With the 7th pick, I have the Washington Commanders in the 2026 NFL Draft selecting Ruben Bain Jr., the edge rusher out of Miami. Bain started red hot to start the season in 2025. He cooled down a little bit. but I still think he's going to be the best pure edge rusher in this class. And Dan Quinn and the Commanders are going to be thrilled to have him rushing the opposing quarterbacks. If you've watched any Commanders team games this year, you can see that the team really needs some juice on the edge. They really need to put more pressure on their opponents. They've got a great culture. They've got a pretty good offense. They've got a lot of pieces in place, and they've got the right coach. But I think that they just need a little bit stronger defensive presence, both in the front seven, but also in the secondary. And Bain at this point is the right person to draft. There's a lot of debate about whether maybe Caleb Downs is the right landing spot here for the Commanders. Secondary certainly needs a lot of help too. But I think that they're going to go after the edge rusher first and foremost, especially being that is a premium position in an edge rusher to put on a rookie contract. So Ruben Bain going number 7 to the Washington Commanders. I think they rush in that card really, really quickly. They're at number 7. I think they're going to be thrilled to have him on this team. Of course, a lot of people are saying his arms are too short to be a dominant and elite edge rusher. I tend to not ignore those kinds of comments. They're very real. The NFL, of course, is a very, very high level of competition, and every single thing matters, including physical traits like those and measurables. But I do think that it's hard to ignore the production that he's had and the potential fit that he would have in this Commanders defense as a day one starter. So Ruben Bain going number 7 to the Washington Commanders in the 2026 draft. In the 8th pick of the 2026 draft, I have the Miami Dolphins selecting Mansour Delane, the cornerback that is out of LSU. This guy is hard to throw against. In fact, most quarterbacks that are opposing LSU this last year just stayed away from him because they had such a low QB rating when throwing in his direction. Just a complete shutdown boundary corner, great for press coverage, right there in the defender's face. That's kind of what Miami needs more than anything, right? The Dolphins, ever since kind of swapping out Jalen Ramsey for Minkah Fitzpatrick, they haven't really had a reliable cornerback. And they've just been getting burned by the pass all year, over 200 yards per game in passing yards against the Dolphins all year. And if you watch them, they just don't have anybody that can cover these receivers in the short, these short routes that they just keep getting burned for. Now, Jermon McCoy is going to be a potential here. A lot of people are going to look at him and say, hey, there's too much of an injury risk, I think, for the Dolphins to go after him with that number 8th pick. But I do think he's potential. I think he'd be a good player for them as well. I just think that they have to go cornerback this year. Watching their tape and watching their games, it's one of the biggest voids that they have in their defense. And I know that Miami has a lot of things that they need to fix on this roster. A lot of people would say there are bigger needs than that cornerback, first and foremost, maybe offensive tackle, maybe even a quarterback to replace Tua. But I think that from everything that I've watched with them, it only makes sense to have your starting cornerback 1 join this team, especially with Mansour right there and available for you number 8. So Mansour Delane, number 8, going to the Miami Dolphins from the LSU Tigers. With the 9th pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the New Orleans Saints, my New Orleans Saints, going with Maye Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. Excuse me, I almost misread my line there. But Maye Lemon is the perfect fit for the Saints. Tyler Shough has shown a lot of potential. A lot of people are saying he could be Rookie of the Year this year. Already airing it out, showing a lot of comfort with the Saints offense. Already a much more established quarterback than a lot of the players that were drafted at QB years before him. Kellen Moore is a QB-friendly coach. He's going to want to put pieces around Shough to assist in his development in his sophomore year. And I actually think Maye Lemon is the right person to do that. Why? Because he's such a speedy route runner. This is a slot cornerback, not the biggest guy. He's not a big-bodied guy like Carnell Tate is. But I think that Maye Lemon, he shows the ability to separate in that kind of, in the slant routes or in the crossing routes. That are, maybe 8 to 10 to 12 yards up the field. And that's kind of what Shough has preferred, that second level, right? Not the short passes, dumping it off to his running backs, but kind of these slot receivers. That's what Shough has thrived all year. And if you give him just this speedy, route runner that's going to provide the separation for him, he's going to go move the chains and pick up first downs. So that's really what the Saints need. It'll probably also free up Chris Olave to open up the field a little bit more, kind of be the X receiver to complement Lemon in the slot there. So with that 9th pick, I think that the New Orleans Saints are definitely going to be going with Maye Lemon, the slot receiver, wide receiver out of USC. Going to be a good fit to help them improve their offense and Tyler Shough's second year of development. With the 10th pick, we had the New York Giants trading down from number 2 to number 10. Compliments of the trade up from the Los Angeles Rams, which of course they inherited this pick from the Atlanta Falcons. So the 10th pick, I have the Giants selecting Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is of course the leader of the secondary. On paper as a safety, could probably line up as a nickelback or perhaps a cornerback even in the defensive secondary of any team that he goes to. Coming out of Ohio State, I mean, he's just been dominant, a high IQ defensive player, kind of the commander of the secondary that's going to see and anticipate passes before they happen. And more than anything, I think that's what the Giants need right now. The Giants find themselves at the top of this year's class, but not needing a quarterback and not really having an offensive lineman that's worthy of taking that number 2 pick. And perhaps you go after a wide receiver, perhaps you go after Tate, perhaps you go after Tite with that number 2 pick. But I think it'd even be more beneficial for them to trade down, pick up some more draft capital from the Rams, pick up another pick here for next year as well, and then also get Downs, who is probably the best fit for their team of all anyway, here at number 10. And the only reason that Downs would fall that far, again, is positional value. Being a safety typically doesn't go at the top of the draft boards, but it's perfect because that's probably what the New York Giants could use more than anything right now. And they get a premier player with excellent football IQ to fill the role. So with that 10th pick, I had the New York Giants selecting Caleb Downs, the defensive back out of Ohio State. With the 11th pick of the 2026 draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. This guy is electric. This guy has got burst. This is kind of a Reggie Bush, reincarnation now. He's so good in space. He's kind of like Saquon in many ways. You try to tackle him and he just takes off and he runs for 50 yards on you. I think that a playmaker like that is really what the Chiefs are going to need a lot right now. And I know this is controversial, right? You're going to say, Simon, there's a lot of things that the Chiefs need a lot of right now. Maybe offensive line to help protect Mahomes, who's dealing with the injury right now. Maybe a defensive edge rusher. There's a lot of things that people are saying. The Chiefs have got already a lot of depth on the offensive line under contract. And they also just selected Josh Simmons last year to be the left tackle. I think that they're going to be okay in that front five to protect Mahomes for another year at least. If not, maybe re-signing some of the players they already have to extensions, or even maybe going after some veterans in free agency. They don't have a whole lot of cap space right now, but I don't see them drafting an offensive lineman this year. I think Jeremiah Love is going to be a good fit for this run-pass options team. A lot of defenses have adapted to kind of the old school Chiefs that we used to see with Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. They used to like to air it out. And of course, Mahomes is a very accurate passer, can always throw a 40-yard bomb on you right into a receiver's hands. And the defense has just started to take that away. They put 2 high. They put 2 safeties high just to shut down those long passes and make Mahomes more often, just dump it off to his running backs, or do a slant route that's in the short term, 5-7 yard pass, or even Mahomes running it more himself. And if the Chiefs can give a playmaker at running back to this roster, get somebody like Jeremiah Love on there, you're going to have to command the respect from defensive boxes. Those linebackers are going to have to pay attention to somebody like Love in the backfield, which is going to free up Mahomes and a lot of his receivers to run those routes more efficiently. And so I think this is the missing piece that the Chiefs offense has been missing for a little while here. Again, Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt are just not getting it done on the ground right now. They're good for short yardage gains, but they don't have that kind of burst that you would see from a player like Jeremiah Love. I think it's perfect for what the Chiefs want and need to do right now. So with that 11th pick, I have Kansas City going with Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. With the 12th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I had the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. Don't get me started with the things that are wrong with Clemson this year. We all know that things didn't go as well as planned for the team as a whole here in 2025. It really wasn't Peter Woods' fault. If you watch the tape of how well he's done in the front, he's pretty good against the run. He's a very strong defensive tackle that can move linemen in front of him, moves those guards out of the way, move those tackles out of the way, and stuff the run very efficiently. But he's also got some pretty good pass winning rates too. He's also able to put some pressure on the quarterback in a way that would complement what Cincinnati's wanting to do with its edge rushers. And you got Shamar Stewart there. You've got some other defensive linemen. They're getting re-signed. But I do think that they need a run presence right now. I don't think they're going to sign another edge. I do expect they're going to lose Trey Hendrickson this offseason because he's only on a 1-year contract right now. He's worth too much money that the Bengals can't pay him again. But I think that Peter Woods, rather than an edge, is the better fit for this defense because he's going to stop those rushing lanes in the middle. And you know, the Bengals right now, they're the worst in the NFL when it comes to rushing defense. You know, here we're here through week 17. Thus far, they've given up 156 rushing yards per game. I think they really need some kind of defensive line interior presence like Peter Woods more than anything. And if you could give your opponents a couple of fewer points on the board at the end of the game, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I mean, this offense is got a high octane to it. It scores a lot of points. It's just that the opponents are scoring more. Let's reduce that delta a little bit more. Let's go after Peter Woods here for the Cincinnati Bengals at that 12th pick. With the 13th pick of the NFL draft, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going with Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State. My goodness, Ohio State now. This is the third pick that they have in the top 13 of this draft thus far. I mean, just totally loaded up. Fourth pick now out of the top 13. Sonny Styles is a perfect fit. Levante David, not going to play forever. I think that Todd Bowles wants to have that kind of that leader of his defensive front there. I think that Sonny Styles, who has not missed a single tackle all year for the Buckeyes, is the perfect fit for them. You got a defensive-minded coach who's also their defensive coordinator. I think that he's going to love Styles. I think he's going to fit right into this, that middle linebacker, that Mike position, and I think he's going to be great for the Buccaneers. The Bucs are going to have to fix a lot of things on their offense, and I project that they're going to end up the season 7-10 for the year. They kind of fell apart in the second part of the season, especially there in the NFC South, but they should have done better with. But I think that with this first pick, if Styles is still on the board, it's a no-brainer to be the oncoming leader of their defense. So with that 13th pick, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going with Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State. With the 14th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting Jermon McCoy, the injured cornerback from Tennessee. We saw him in 2024. He was fantastic, right? Great tape right there, great boundary corner, can play press coverage, if needed to be. He kind of was expected to be a top 10 pick here in 2026. But Glenn was injured, had the ACL tear, a scary injury for a lot of people, didn't play at all this year, the entire season. A lot of people are going to look at the docs and whether they're actually going to release the medicals that say that he's going to be okay next year. And that's why I think that he's going to drop down to 14. The Vikings have a good defense. They have Brian Flores. They like to blitz a lot. They blitz more than almost any other team out there, especially on third down. So you really want to have a press cover cornerback that's going to be right there with the receivers, jam them up at the line of scrimmage, and not give quarterbacks any look at any kind of separation as the blitz comes in to take them down to the second and third down. And so I think McCoy is a good fit for the scheme. I think that Flores is going to love him. I think he's going to be the right player for the Vikings to take a little bit of a chance on there at number 14. With the 15th pick of the 2026 draft, I have the New York Jets selecting Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn. This is a difficult player to evaluate because he's got such high potential, but also a pretty low floor as well. Falk does not have great production. He didn't get a ton of sacks last year. He showed potential. He's got the measurables. He's got the size to be an elite defensive lineman who could line up, as a defensive end on a 4-3, kind of on the outside as an edge rusher. Probably could play defensive tackle too, right? Could be a 3-tech, that kind of lines up a little bit more on the interior. And with the Jets running a 4-3 and having a creative coach who is a defensive player himself with Aaron Glenn, I think they're going to get a lot out of Keldrick Falk. Just like we had them drafting Arvell Reese with number 3. I can just imagine the potential for Glenn in that defensive scheme to have both Arvell Reese and Keldrick Falk all of a sudden in your defensive front. That's going to be very difficult for opponents' offensive lines to line up against. Right, Falk has just got a bunch of potential. The Jets do need to prioritize their offense a lot this year. I had them again trading with the Cardinals, their third rounder their second rounder for Kyler Murray. It's kind of a bridge quarterback there for them. But I think that if you put somebody like Reese alongside somebody like Keldrick Falk on this defensive front, that's kind of what you want to see as a team is rebuilding for 2 or 3 years. And don't forget, they've got 3 first-round picks in 2027. Not this next year, in 2026, where they have 2 picks, but in 2027 and next year, they've got 3. That's where you go after your franchise QB in a class that's going to have, Arch Manning, Lenora Sellers, Justin Sagan. It's going to be a stacked class for quarterback. I think the Jets are going to hold for a year or 2 years, kind of take this bridge with Kyler Murray, really focus on the defensive front, and then all that capital that they picked up from trading out Quentin Williams and trading off Sauce Gardner, they're going to really use that to take advantage of the offense in 2027. So with that 15th pick, I have the New York Jets selecting Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn. With the 16th pick, I had the Dallas Cowboys selecting David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. This guy has been very productive, the leader in sacks for college football through the end of the season. He's just been very, very effective, great out there on the edge. I mean, Micah Parsons, we can talk about whether that was a good trade or a bad trade for the Cardinals a lot. They've got Donovan Ezeraku that's lining up outside there too. They typically like to run a 4-3, so this isn't a perfect scheme fit for them. But I think if you give them Bailey's production right along Ezeraku, you're going to have a pretty formidable, group of edge rushers. They're going to line up as outside linebackers. Probably they're going to change the scheme a little bit here. They're going to be standing rather than putting their putting their fist in the ground like a 4-3 defensive end might do. But I think it's going to put a lot of heat on the pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I think it's just going to be too good to pass up at number 16 here. I think Jerry's going to like him. I think this is going to be a good pass rushing duo as the Cowboys are looking to rebuild that defense, including the other defensive player I'm going to have them take later here in the first round. So number 16, I have the Dallas Cowboys going with David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. With the 17th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Detroit Lions going with Caden Proctor, the left tackle out of Alabama. Left tackle, wide receiver, inside guard, or however you want to line this guy up. He can do a lot of things. I'm joking about the wide receiver. He did catch a pass earlier this season, which was a little bit humorous for those who saw that. But this is a guy that's massive, right? 370 pounds plus. Surprisingly has got really good technique for that kind of size. You look at somebody that's that big, you would think they're going to have a history with injuries. Proctor really doesn't thus far in his college career. You would think that he'd be slow and not able to adapt or hold off, fast edge rushers who might be, 60 or 70 pounds lighter than him, that are able to move around. Not much lighter, but maybe 80 pounds even lighter than him. They're able to just, run right around him at 370. He's got pretty good feet for his size, and he is strong as an ox out there on the outside. He's not perfect as a zone blocking left tackle. Taylor Decker, who is the Lions starting left tackle, was fantastic like that. You could see them pulling the tackles for the run. Jahmyr Gibbs, all the things that he's done out in space. You like to have zone blocking tackles that can do that. Proctor is not really that guy. He's more of a gap blocking left tackle, just because he's so big. You don't want to have a guy like that running too much during the game. He's going to get exhausted by the fourth quarter, but he's good in the gap blocking scheme. I think that he's very, very capable of being a pass protector for Jared Goff. And then you can kind of rotate out some of the depth, some of the swing tackles if you want to do more zone blocking like they've done this last year. But just too tempting to pass at number 17 for a team that, had injury history on that offensive line all year. I think that's going to be a good fit for the Lions. That Dan Campbell really loves to invest first-round picks into the offensive line. We know that Brad Holmes loves Alabama players. He's drafted several of them in the last several years. I think Caden Proctor is a natural fit here, and he's going to be picked for the Lions at number 17. With the 18th pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking Francis Mauigoa, the right tackle out of Miami. This is the playoff line, right? This is the last team to not make the playoffs this year. I think it's going to be the Ravens. I think that the Steelers are going to take it to them that final week and secure their playoff spot. I think the Ravens are just going to miss it at 9-8 to finish off the season. And they've got a lot of things that they could do differently. I think that a lot of people are going to say, go after an edge rusher, maybe go after an inside linebacker, or somebody for the defense there. Maybe even put somebody up there as a defensive tackle for the front. They had some injuries that kind of affected a lot of those defensive positions this year. But I just think that with Daniel Falele really struggling at right guard this year, I think that between that and the hamstring injury that Lamar has been dealing with here recently, it's going to be more important for the Ravens to prioritize getting that offensive line right if they want to be a Super Bowl contender in 2026. And Maye really shouldn't be dropping to number 18. I mean, this is the guy that's probably the second best offensive tackle in the league, in college football right now. Played right tackle at Miami. Based on his size and his measurables, I think he's fully capable of being a right guard instead of a right tackle. I think that's actually what the Ravens are going to be drafting him to be. And the reason that he fell down to 18 in the first place is they're just outside of the Cardinals. There weren't a whole lot of teams I saw at the top of this year's draft that wanted to invest in a tackle or an offensive lineman based on the players that were available. There just weren't as many premium offensive linemen this year in 2026 to justify those premium picks going to him. So I think that CeCe Maye, they're at 18. He's kind of a good pick. The Ravens tend to like to take best player available. They like to have these kind of players that just kind of fall into their lap, that maybe are not the biggest positional need that they have at the time. But, they've got $40 million in cap space available. Maybe they're going to go address some of those defensive positions in the offseason. And I think I like them taking CeCe. They're at right tackle at number 18. So now we get to the playoffs with the 19th pick of the 2026 NFL draft. These are now the teams that have made the playoffs. It's all speculation as of right now. It's December the 30th, 2025. We don't know how the playoffs are going to play out yet, but here's my prediction of how the rest of the first round is going to go. With the 19th pick in the 2026 NFL draft, I have the Carolina Panthers taking Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. Again, this is the only tight end I have going in the first round. And this is, again, another controversial pick. A lot of people will say you can't take a tight end this early. Other people will say, look at Tyler Warren, look how well he's done. Look at Colston Loveland, look at how well he's fitting in to the Bears scheme out there. I think this is a good fit for the Panthers, and actually they're going to value a lot of Sadiq's production that he's had, not only as a receiver, but as a blocker. Why is that? Well, first of all, you want to give Bryce Young another weapon. Tedero McMillan has done very, very well as a rookie this year. I think he exceeded almost everyone's expectations. There was a lot of doubt on whether he should have been picked in the top 10 like he was in last year's draft. He's silenced all those critics and has just outperformed, been a reliable target for Bryce Young. You want to give Bryce another target. As he's showing potential, Dave Canales, a very QB-friendly coach. Bryce Young is showing the ability to adapt. Even after a couple challenging, difficult years, I think you want to give him another playmaker, another receiving threat, and Kenyon Sadiq has certainly done that. But also Rico Dowdle. I mean, look at the running proficiency that the Panthers have shown this year, right? They've done fantastic. Chuba Hubbard also alongside Rico Dowdle. The Panthers have been killing it in the running game. I don't think a lot of people expected them to do as well as they would. So let's keep those running backs productive. Let's re-sign them on their contracts. Let's take advantage of what the Panthers have caught with the lightning in a bottle here and get Kenyon Sadiq lined up as the sixth lineman. Put him right there next to the tackles and start having him block in space for those open up those running lanes for the Panthers' rushing attack. So with that 19th pick, I have the Carolina Panthers selecting Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. With the 20th pick in the 2026 draft, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington. Reminds me, of course, a lot of Rome Odunze. Again, that big-bodied ex-receiver right there out of Washington. He's going to catch what you throw it to him. You can throw it up 50-50 ball, and you've got a big-bodied receiver who's going to go out there and catch it over a cornerback. That's what Denzel Boston is bringing to the Steelers here. You've got already DK Metcalf, who's kind of a similar build, a big receiver that can run in space there as well. But I do think that the Steelers are going to want to have another receiving threat, even if it's similar in shape to what DK Metcalf is bringing. I think that you want to have a wide receiver number 2, especially after trading George Pickens to the Cowboys last year. I also think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to take a quarterback here at number 20. Ty Simpson is still on the board, and a lot of people will look at this and say, oh, you got to take Ty Simpson. He's the mid-round quarterback that fits into the need for the Steelers. I just don't see it happening. I think that the Steelers learned their lesson with Kenny Pickett a couple years ago when they took a mid-first-round quarterback. They weren't able to develop him as well as they thought. He didn't play out for them. They ended up trading him away, and now he's sitting on the bench as a depth quarterback. I think that Ty Simpson is a high IQ potential for the NFL, but I think that after 1 year of starting, he's not ready yet, and he wouldn't come in and be ready to be a starter for the Steelers in time, Mike Tomlin, in year one. They could take him and let him sit for a year, but I think it's more likely that once again the Steelers are going to go out there and play the veteran market. They've got some free cap space. They've got $67 million of open cap space right now. I think that's enough wiggle room for them to go out there and bid on a veteran quarterback, in the free agent market, right? Malik Willis could be out there. Marcus Mariota could be out there. I mean, there's some, even a trade for Mac Jones, who isn't starting right now, but has got a lot of potential to be a starter. I mean, the Steelers, I think, more likely are going to play the veteran market, and it's going to free them up to draft what they think is a better player in terms of the first round, which is Denzel Boston, wide receiver, the ex-receiver, coming out of Washington, going there to Pittsburgh at number 20. With the 21st pick of the 2026 draft, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Giddings Dunker, the right tackle out of Iowa. This is a cool pick for them. I think that Lane Johnson, the foot injury that he had last year, it kind of really cramped a lot of the things that the Eagles wanted to do. They're a zone blocking team. They like to pull their tackles in space. Lane Johnson, and the rest of that offensive line is very, very mobile, very, very good in that zone blocking scheme. But when they lost Johnson, that foot injury, it really kind of suffered in their ability to do that. And you saw Saquon was much less productive in 2025 than he was in 2024 when he had 2,000 rushing yards season. I think they're going to want to have depth for the offensive line here, just in case they have another recurring injury. Lane Johnson, of course, a fantastic Pro Bowl offensive lineman. Most of that offensive line is, a very, very high level in my opinion, but I think they need a little bit more depth to it and somebody who's really good at that zone blocking scheme. Dunker has been the starting right tackle for Iowa, I believe, all 4 years that he was in college. Really, really good in space. Not the biggest guy, not the most mobile guy, but certainly understands zone blocking. I also think if they need to, they move him inside to right guard, depending on how that the injuries play out for the Eagles in 2026. But I do think that Giddings Dunker, a good player, a good fit for what I think the Eagles want the most of right now. They do like to invest in the trenches in the first round of their drafts, and this would be a good fit for them there at number 21. With the 22nd pick of the 2026 draft, I have the LA Chargers selecting Vega Ione. We're going to call him Vega for the purposes of the rest of this because that's the name he prefers to go by, and it'll make it a lot easier for me to pronounce his name too. He's a left guard out of Penn State, an interior offensive lineman. No doubt what Jim Harbaugh wants to do with the Chargers here. Justin Herbert taking way too many hits, having way too many hurries this year. If you watched him this year with the skeleton hand that he had on the left hand there, he had the broken hand that he was still wearing a metal plate on the outside of. You don't want to see your franchise quarterback, who is a warrior and getting out there and playing anyway, you don't want to see him taking any more hits. And Zion Johnson and Mekhi Becton have underperformed as guards for the Chargers this year. Even with the tackle injuries that you had with Joe Alt, and Rashawn Slater, the guards did not hold their own even when fully healthy. And the Chargers really, I think, could have been a Super Bowl contender this year. I have them dropping out here in the wild card loss this round because they're just banged up. They're season-ending injuries for their offensive linemen and their tackles, and the guards also just not get done. I think that Vega is the best interior offensive lineman of this class. Certainly showed that at Penn State. I think they're going to put him in either as a starter right away, probably replacing Mekhi Becton, who's been dreadful this year, but I think that his reliability is going to get Harbaugh's attention and probably be either a starter or at least a replacement swing tackle there for the Chargers, and I have them selecting him, Vega, at number 22. With the 23rd pick of the 2026 draft, I have the Dallas Cowboys, compliments of a trade from the Green Bay Packers for Micah Parsons. At number 23, I have the Cowboys selecting Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson. This is a zone cover quarterback. And Matt Eberflus, who came over as a head coach of the Bears, now the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, loves to run zone coverage. In fact, almost 90% of the time, he's running zone coverage for the Cowboys. And, Terrell, whose brother plays for the Falcons, today, really good defensive back. It really kind of described by many as being the best zone cover in the entire class. Not as good at press as somebody like Mansour Lane, as somebody like Jermon McCoy, but in terms of zone coverage, it's the right scheme fit for the Cowboys there. And I think that he's not as elite perhaps as those top two cornerbacks. This is a deep class for corner, so the Cowboys could certainly push this out. But I think that when you see the Cowboys just getting burned for 250 yards a game through the air, passing yards per game to their opponents, you got to do something about that to address it. They've got some injuries this year. They did pick Savon Ravel last year in the draft, but I think you want to compliment him with somebody like an Avion Terrell. Good in zone coverage, also good against the run too. So coupling him alongside David Bailey, I think that's pretty good for the second level and then also secondary for the Cowboys. I'm pretty confident that this is going to work out well. They select Avion Terrell going to the Cowboys at number 23. With the 24th pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting CJ Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia. The Bills go back and forth. Sometimes they look like the best team in the league. Sometimes they look like they just can't get it together. Josh Allen, of course, fantastic quarterback. Just missed the 2-point conversion, which kept them from winning this last week in a very, very highly contested game. But I think that more than anything right now, they put all of their eggs into defense and the front seven last year. You see a lot of their picks kind of addressing the run. They really struggled against the run in 2024. They did better this year in 2025, but I still don't think they're there yet. I think that CJ Allen, aside from Sonny Styles, is the best middle linebacker in this year's class. I think he's very dependable. He was playing against very high-level competition last year, and that run-stuffing Mike linebacker is kind of what I think that the Bills could still use right now. I don't think they're going after a wide receiver here. I think that Josh Allen's doing just fine, passing the ball to his receivers that he's got. He uses his legs to score touchdowns as often as he can. I think that the Bills have overinvested in wide receiver in the first rounds in the last couple of years. I think it's the right time to get a linebacker, shut down the run of your opponents, put some fewer points against you on the boards, and I think that CJ Allen would be a good pick there for the Bills at number 24. With the 25th pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle, nose tackle primarily, from Ohio State. This guy is a mauler when it comes to the run. He just clogs the running lanes. I mean, he's the strongest, most powerful player on the field most of the time. He's huge. He's a nose tackle. He's going to fit right there into the middle of San Francisco's front, right next to Collins. You're right next to some of those other strong players that they've got. And the 49ers, they've got a good roster. And there's no doubt about it. This team has done well winning games. Even when they've been short-staffed, it seems like everybody on their team right now is on injured reserve, and yet still they go out there and they're winning. The 49ers are a fantastic team, of course, fantastic coaching, and I think that with a guy like Caden McDonald, who knows his role, he knows that he's a nose tackle right in the middle of stuff to run, kind of a one-dimensional player. You're not going to get a whole lot against the pass, but Kyle Shanahan is going to be okay with that. He sees that this is a role player for those first early downs that he's going up against, first and second down, stuff in the run. I think that's going to free up Nick Bosa. That's going to free up Tyreek Williams, Mykel Williams on the edge once they come back from injuries that they had this year to kind of put a little bit more juice on the pass rush. So I really like Caden McDonald. I like the fit here with the 49ers. I think the 49ers could have made a deeper run, maybe even be a Super Bowl contender this year. I have them bowing out here in the divisional title game, for the NFC this year, just because of the injuries. I think it's going to be very hard for them. But you can see the pieces coming into place. Brock Purdy, really, really developing very, very nicely. Christian McCaffrey, a fantastic running back for this team. They've got the right pieces in place. I think they need a little bit more with the defense, and that's why I have the 49ers going with Caden McDonald at number 25 out of Ohio State. With the 26th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Houston Texans selecting Caleb Lomu, the left tackle out of Utah. I actually have him switching over to right tackle. I think they're going to be fine with left tackle elsewhere. They're going to play the veteran market as well. I think they're going to go out there and look at some free agents and shore up that offensive line. They did pick Ursary last year as their left tackle. Erontere Ursary was their left tackle that's going to be starting right now. I think that's going to be okay. I think they want to move Loam over there to the right tackle side. Ed Ingram has been kind of struggling in pass protection this year. Trent Brown is on a one-year, deal. I think he's on a rental contract right now. I think he's gone. I think that Lomu is going to be a good fit for the scheme on the right-hand side. He's a zone blocker out of Utah. That's good. The Texans like to pull their linemen, like to run the ball. I think that Lomu is going to be a good fit for this team and for this scheme. And of course, the Texans still need a lot of help on that offensive line, especially in protecting C.J. Stroud. But the defense is fantastic. This is an elite defense, probably the best in the league right now, in my opinion. The Texans make a pretty good run in the playoffs this year. I think you can get a little bit more on that offensive front. You got a Super Bowl contender here in 2026. So the Texans going at number 26 with Caleb Lomu, the tackle out of Utah. With the 7th pick in the 2026 draft, I have the Seattle Seahawks drafting Emmanuel Pregnon, the guard, the interior lineman out of Oregon. Pregnon has been has been a good guard the entire year. In fact, in 2 years, he's never given a sack up to Oregon. That's really good, first of all, and I think it's probably what Seattle really needs. They've struggled kind of at right guard this year. Radford has not been super reliable. They did pretty good with getting Gray Zabel, the previous class. You've been dependable offensive lineman there. I think that you put another highly reliable guard there right in the middle to help protect Sam Darnold. That's going to unleash a little bit more of his potential. I think that Darnold just kind of struggles in tough moments and doesn't do so good under pressure. If you've seen the tape, you just need to have some good protection against him. Of course, they're running the ball very, very well with Kenneth Walker. Whether he returns or they bring another line or another running back, you have a line that you don't want to have to pull on those zone blocking schemes. I think that this is a lineman is a wise investment for this team. I think they're a Super Bowl competitor that's just going to kind of miss out, losing the divisional this year. But with that 27th pick, I think they're going to go with the guard of the Seattle Seahawks. With the 28th pick in the 2026 draft, I have the Cleveland Browns trading their selection to the Arizona Cardinals. I have the Cardinals giving number 36, which is in the second round, and number 70 in the third round to the New York Jets. To the Cleveland Browns for the number 28th pick, and then also a later on, the 140th pick as well. So the Cardinals giving up number 36 and number 70 to the Browns for number 28 and number 140. And then with that pick at 28, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama. As I get through the specifics of that trade, which was a mouthful, let's now talk about why Ty Simpson would make sense. Again, to recap what happened earlier in the round, or earlier during the offseason, I think the Cardinals are going to trade Kyler Murray for the best offer they can get. And I think there's going to be a couple of teams that will offer a third rounder for Kyler. I think the Jets have got a little bit more capital and want to have a bridge quarterback badly enough for the next 2 years to offer a second rounder to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals flip that second rounder along with their own third rounder there to the Browns so they can move up a little bit and pick up Ty Simpson to replace Kyler Murray. Why do they pick him up at 28? Well, because they want to have that fifth-year option for a quarterback. They want to get into the first round so they can have that full development with them, see what they've got with them, and pick up the fifth-year option if they wanted to. Ty Simpson is a high-risk, high-potential reward quarterback. He's got limited college experience. He was good at Alabama, there's no doubt about it, but only 1 year as a starter, limited college experience. Not great physical traits, but he's good at processing the field. He's a guy that you want to play with, got a great culture. I think he's got the right locker room appeal for a team like this. It's really wanting to kind of build that back in the next couple of years. So I see them moving out. I think this is a better fit than what Arizona has right now. If they go out there and they pick up the best right tackle with Spencer Fano there at number 4, and then you bring in a quarterback at the end of the round, and then really you're only giving up Kyler Murray and then a couple of second and third round picks to get this, and maintaining your first rounder for 2027, I think that's probably a good reset that you can do for the Cardinals. So I have Arizona picking at number 28, Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama. With the 29th pick in the 2026 draft, I have the New England Patriots selecting Cassius Howell, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M. Again, super productive, tons of sacks, tons of hurries this year. A lot of people are just saying he doesn't have the measurables. He's got too short of arms to be a first-round pick. I disagree. Certainly, the Patriots disagree. That's why they brought in, Will Campbell to be their offensive lineman, who a lot of people are also saying had too short of arms. Guess what? He did a fantastic job protecting Dre Maye this year. They're going to focus on the productivity that Cassius Howell has had, and he's going to be a good fit, too, for that 3-4 scheme they've got. Line him up outside as an offensive linebacker, have him standing, rushing the passer, doing the bend around the tackles. It's the right fit for the scheme that the Patriots like to use. And my goodness, the Patriots, what a fantastic team this year. I think that, just a couple more pieces that they've got there on defense. You've got the offense in place. The offense is already in place. Drake Maye has been, an MVP caliber season right here. If you put a little bit more juice on the edge, you put a little bit more pressure on your opposing quarterbacks, and then spend some of that $60 million that they've still got in the offseason of cap space. I think that you've got a Super Bowl caliber team here with the Patriots, and Cassius Howe is going to be a good fit for them. They're really going to love him. They're going to love his speed. He's going to fit in this scheme. So Patriots at number 29, Cassius Howe, the edge rusher out of A&M. With the 30th pick in the 2026 draft, I have the Chicago Bears taking T.J. Parker, the edge rusher out of Clemson. Again, Dennis Allen coming over from the Saints, my own Saints. Now, head coach going to the defensive coordinator of the Bears. We know that he likes to run a 4-3 scheme. The Bears and Allen in particular like to have big edge rushers, those power rushers out there. TJ Parker, not the tallest. Typically they like guys that are 6'5" or larger. Montez Sweat is kind of the prototypical edge rusher that they want to have there. I think TJ Parker's going to do just fine. He can line up in that 4-3 scheme. Clemson, again, had a lot of issues this year, but I don't think that's on Parker. I think that you're going to want to have a running mate there with Montez Sweat, as the Bears have a pretty good roster, a really good offensive line. They've got their quarterback, they've got the receivers. Let's look at the defense. Let's put some of the pieces in place here. And TJ Parker, a lot of people said at one time, this guy's a top 10 pick. Didn't have the season we were expecting that would justify a top 10 pick on him, but I think at the end of the round, pretty comfortable drafting him if you're the Chicago Bears there at number 30. With the 31st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the runners-up of the Super Bowl, the Denver Broncos, selecting KC Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M. The Broncos have an elite team in so many ways. What Sean Payton has done there is amazing. In just a few years from getting out of a toxic contract tied to Russell Wilson and having to rebuild so many things. They went after the offensive line, then they went after the defense. They got some great players in there. They got some great coaches to follow Peyton to the Broncos, and all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl just a couple of years later. Amazing what they've done, and they continue to have the strong get stronger in this draft class as well. Casey Concepcion is a slot receiver for the most part. Drops too many passes. That's something he needs to work on, but he's got great speed. He's going to be able to create separation in the slot. Bo Nix is going to value that. They're going to really want to have a speedy route runner for him to throw the ball and move the chains, on second and third down. On top of that, he could be a punt returner too. He could play a lot of different positions. He could line up in a lot of different ways. I think it's going to be kind of, Sean Payton likes to have that joker role. Casey Concepcion is not a joker, like we talked about Tyler Warren potentially being in last year's class. But I do think he could line up a lot of different formations. He could probably line him up outside if he needed to. But he's got the speed. I think he fits into this offense as a slot receiver for the Denver Broncos, going with Casey Concepcion at number 31. And at number 32, again, this was a trade we had earlier in the round. I see the Los Angeles Rams winning the Super Bowl in 2025. Early 2026. And then trading up to get their franchise quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, at number 2. And in exchange, they give the Giants a trade package that includes the number 10 pick in the first round, and then also the number 32 pick at the end of the first round here. So with that 32nd pick in the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the New York Giants taking Austin Seravelt, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Again, the Giants can go a lot of directions on this. You could give them a receiving option. We know that Jackson Dart, you could put some receivers around him, but they've also got a lot of cap space available to do things like that, to pick up veterans at free agency, if not draft somebody in the second or third round with their own picks, as we know there's a lot of very viable options at wide receiver in this class. But I have him going with an offensive tackle. Seravelt has been the left tackle for OSU during the past year, but he also has lined up at different times in his career there at right guard and then also as left guard. And I think that Andrew Thomas is probably going to continue to be the starting left tackle for the Giants, leaving Austin to kind of fill in where else they need help on that offensive line. It could be right tackle, could be left guard, could be right guard, depending on kind of who re-signs with the team, where the injuries take players out of the lineup. But I think that there's going to be a role for him. That's a position of need that makes sense to get there at the end of the first round. So Austin Seravelt, the offensive tackle, the left tackle that was playing at Ohio State, going to the New York Giants, they're at number 32. So a quick recap of what happens here in my 2026 mock draft. We had at number 1, the Vegas Raiders taking Dante Moore. At number 2, we had the Rams trading up to get Fernando Mendoza. The Jets at number 3 going with Arvell Reese. The Cardinals going with Spencer Fano, the right tackle. The the Tennessee Titans at number 5, going with Carnell Tate, the wide receiver. At number 6, the Cleveland Browns going with Jordan Tyson. At number 7, the Commanders taking Reuben Babe Jr. At number 8, the Dolphins going with Mansour Delane. At number 9, the Saints taking Mekhi Lemon. And at number 10, the Giants trading down and taking Caleb Downs. There's how the top 10 played out, as well as the rest of the picks on how I see the 2026 draft going. I had fun with this. I hope you enjoyed this recap of the first round. Anyone else who's been following along this long and has stuck with me through the entire podcast probably loves mock drafts as much as I do. Again, my day job is picking stocks with 7 Investing, but my other passion is looking at teams that are rebuilding their franchises in NFL football. Not just the Saints, but every team. I think that draft day is an important day and a special day for so many college graduates and college players that are coming out and going to be creating their professional careers. And then also seeing how a lot of teams are going to rebuild, especially those struggling franchises at the top. So thanks for sticking around and listening to my 2026 NFL mock draft. If you have comments or thoughts about any of the teams and players that I've mentioned, which of these teams and picks did you love? Which of them did you hate? Which of them do you disagree with? What other trades do you see happening? Leave some comments for me below. And I appreciate you tuning in for my 2026 mock draft. Again, my name is Simon Erickson from 7 Investing. I hope you have a great year. We'll see you in Pittsburgh for draft day in 2026.